The best way to describe the PlayStation VR and all its components is kinda like a weapon in Dead Rising 2. It's like Sony took a few different accessories, got some tape and just strapped it all together. The camera used for tracking was just the standard PS4 camera. The controllers were from Sony's failed Wii ripoff for the PlayStation 3, the PlayStation Move. Yes, you heard that right, the PlayStation 3. These controllers just weren't built for these types of games. Developers had to find a workaround for things like movement, which ended up making most games feel quite jarring, with you having to teleport or move the controller around to either move forwards or backwards. It just wasn't that great, especially when the controller tracking sometimes just didn't work, like the PS4 camera and the PS3 Move controllers don't like each other and are constantly fighting. This can be especially annoying with something like Super Hot, a game where time only moves when you move, so every movement you make is important. But that doesn't matter when you just see your right hand wander off in the distance, because yet again the PS4 camera is just being an arsehole to the inferior controller made for the PS3. Whilst I'm talking about controllers, I think Sony made newer Move controllers built for VR and also a newer camera, but because they were all just branded the same, if you were like me and bought it all second hand, there was no way of telling. The ones I had were shocking. They would only charge if your PS4 was turned on, and the battery life lasted about as long as Wolverhampton Wanderers clean sheet. It meant that I spent most of my time just waiting for these bastard things to charge, for them to only last about half an hour. This wasn't even the biggest problem for the headset though, that was the crazy amount of wires you had to plug in to get this thing to work. The headset came with this little box which would act as an in-between between the headset and the PS4. You had to plug in the VR's own power brick, then 2 HDMI leads, and then the VR headset to the box. It was that bad, all the wires were numbered so you knew how many steps you had to go through to set it all up, and at the time I never really had space just to leave it all out and connected. So after every playthrough I had to put it all away back in the box. It was frustrating because friends and family would always want to try it, but when it takes about 2 to 3 working days to set up, I just got to the point where I couldn't be arsed anymore. As the years went on, I would get more and more frustrated with Sony's attempt at VR, as newer games would come out like Blood and Truth and The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, games that I really wanted to play, but I just knew the hassle of trying to navigate them in this way would just not be worth it. Honestly, looking back, the PS4's VR experience was okay, but it did seem like Sony could have done a better job with the peripherals, which they would fix with their next generation version, which we won't talk about that. But honestly, if you want to experience VR for the first time, but you're on a tight budget and already own a PS4, well, you're in luck. These things go for super cheap nowadays, and here in the UK, second-hand stores are selling them for as cheap as £30, which is still an absolute bargain, considering there's still tons of fun games available on the platform. By 2020, I had really just given up with my PlayStation VR headset, and it started collecting dust, which is a shame, because I really enjoyed that gaming experience. By the end of the year, after another lovely lockdown, I spoke to a few colleagues at work who also invested into the Sony VR experience, and they told me they switched to something else,